The room is small, private, tucked inside a corridor of the palace that most staff never enter without an invitation. The kind of room where light falls differently, softer, older, as though the walls themselves have absorbed decades of quiet decisions that the public will never know about. A velvet case sits open on the dressing table. Inside it, a ring, not ostentatious, not the kind of jewel that catches gaslight from across a ballroom. According to palace insiders, this particular piece was never meant for public display at all. It was the kind of object that moved between royal women privately, passed not with ceremony, but with something quieter, understanding. And now, reportedly, a request has arrived, carefully worded, delivered not through argument, not through confrontation, but through the kind of restrained palace language that says everything by saying almost nothing. The ring, according to sources familiar with internal palace communications, is being asked to be returned. Queen Camilla stands very still. She does not shout. She does not reach for the phone. She simply looks at the velvet case, and in that stillness, that careful, controlled stillness, something shifts in the room that no official statement will ever be able to describe. Because what hurts most in powerful institutions is rarely the conflict. It is the quiet. It is the way a decision can arrive already dressed in dignity, offering no room for grief. And then, according to those present, Camilla asks one question. Softly, almost to herself. Has William been informed? The aide does not answer immediately, and according to palace insiders, that pause changed the entire atmosphere of the room. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. To understand why one piece of jewelry could destabilize an entire palace atmosphere, you have to understand something about the way the British monarchy communicates. It does not use speeches for the things that truly matter. It uses objects. According to royal historians and those who have studied the internal symbolism of the House of Windsor across generations, certain pieces within the private royal collection carry a meaning that exists entirely apart from their monetary value. They are not worn for photographs. They are not catalogued in public inventories. They circulate quietly, deliberately, between the women who occupy the inner architecture of royal life. A ring like the one reportedly at the center of this situation would not be chosen by accident. Sources familiar with its reported history suggest it represented something specific, a continuity among senior royal women, a silent acknowledgement that a woman had moved from the periphery of the institution into something more permanent, more essential. Institutions rarely say you belong here with words. They say it with placement, with access, with the objects they choose to place in your hands. And now, reportedly, that object was being withdrawn. Palace staff who became aware of the situation in the days that followed described an atmosphere of unusual restraint. Not panic, not anger, just a particular kind of careful silence that, according to longtime royal observers, tends to appear when something symbolic has shifted at the highest levels. Then came a detail that deepened the unease considerably. A palace archivist, according to reports circulating among senior staff, reportedly noticed that the ring's historical file had been temporarily restricted from the standard cataloging system. Not removed, not destroyed, simply made unavailable. And that was the first moment some staff members began to fear that this situation was much larger than anyone in that quiet corridor had initially realized. Before we can understand what this moment means for Camilla, we have to go back. Back to the years when her name was not spoken with deference inside palace walls, but with something considerably colder. The public record of Camilla's journey into the British monarchy is unusually well documented. Not because the palace chose transparency, but because so much of her story unfolded in the full glare of a media that had already decided its position on her. She arrived into royal life carrying a weight that most people, if they are honest, would find impossible to carry with any grace at all. She carried it anyway. According to those who observed her closely during that period, what the public often misread as coldness was actually something else entirely. Something harder to sustain. It was discipline. The kind that develops not from confidence, but from survival. She learned, reportedly through years of quiet observation, that the monarchy rewards endurance above almost every other quality. That visibility without legitimacy is a trap. That patience, practiced long enough and consistently enough, eventually becomes its own form of power. People often mistake emotional control for emotional absence. They are not the same thing. By the time Camilla became queen consort, those who had watched her navigate the institution described a woman who had mastered one of the most difficult arts in royal life: the ability to absorb pressure without broadcasting it. But according to insiders, during the period that this story concerns, something private had shifted in her. She had reportedly begun to believe, quietly, carefully, that the most turbulent chapter was behind her, that stability had finally arrived, that the position she had endured so much to reach was now, at last, secure. But the palace, according to sources close to senior royal operations, had already started preparing emotionally for something else. Power rarely announces its arrival. Most of the time, it simply starts receiving more attention. In the weeks and months that sources suggest preceded the ring request, royal observers who study the internal mechanics of the household began noting a series of changes that, individually, could each be explained away as routine. Collectively, they told a different story. Meetings that had historically included certain figures began completing themselves without those figures present. According to insiders, coordination that once flowed through established channels started moving through newer ones. Staff members who had spent years operating within a particular orbit reportedly found their access quietly, but unmistakably narrowed. And at the center of those changes, according to multiple sources familiar with palace dynamics, was a gradual but accelerating expansion of Prince William's operational influence. Not dramatic, not confrontational, just consistent. And consistent in royal life is everything. The first theory that emerged among royal commentators was procedural, that what observers were witnessing was simply the natural administrative evolution of a household preparing for a generational transition. Responsibilities redistributed, hierarchies clarified, nothing personal, nothing permanent. The second theory was quieter and considerably more unsettling. It suggested that what was being witnessed was not preparation for the future, but the future already beginning to operate in the present, before any formal transition had been publicly acknowledged. Then came the detail that gave the second theory its sharpest edge. A longtime palace aide, one who, according to sources, had been closely associated with Camilla's circle for years, reportedly lost access to a strategic planning meeting without explanation. No confrontation, no formal removal, simply an invitation that never arrived. And in palace life, an invitation that does not arrive carries precisely the same weight as a door that has been quietly, carefully closed. What reportedly happened next belongs to the category of palace moments that are never officially confirmed, and never truly denied. According to sources close to the household, in the days following the ring request, a private conversation reportedly took place between King Charles and Queen Camilla. There was no shouting. Sources are consistent on that point. No anger, no accusation, no raised voices echoing through private corridors the way palace scandals sometimes do in their most dramatic retellings. What reportedly filled the room instead was something harder to describe and considerably harder to bear. Sadness. The particular sadness that arrives, according to those who have spent their lives inside institutions, when two people who care deeply about each other find themselves on opposite sides of something neither of them entirely chose. Charles, according to reports circulating among those familiar with senior royal operations, reportedly framed the ring decision not as rejection, not as punishment, but as institutional necessity, as the kind of adjustment that the monarchy occasionally requires of the people inside it, even the people it holds most dear. Sometimes the most painful conversations, insiders note, happen between two people trying very hard not to hurt each other. And then Camilla, according to those accounts, said something quietly, not defensively, not with bitterness, just with the particular clarity of someone who has survived enough institutional pressure to recognize its shape. So this is how transitions begin. The room reportedly went very still, neither confirmed nor denied, just held. And what happened the following morning, according to palace sources, surprised even senior staff members who believed they had seen everything this institution was capable of. If this story is moving you, make sure you're subscribed. We cover the human stories behind the headlines every single week. Royal symbolism speaks most loudly in the moments of its absence. The ring was gone, not quietly absent in the way that private jewelry moves between events and residences without comment. Gone in the way that those who study royal appearances closely, and there are more of them than the institution has ever found comfortable, immediately recognized as significant. According to royal watchers who follow formal appearances with the kind of attention most people reserve for something far more urgent, the ring's absence from Camilla's hand at a subsequent public engagement was noticed almost immediately. Photographs circulated. Commentary followed. And then, in the particular way that royal speculation accelerates in the modern media environment, the theories began multiplying faster than any palace communications operation could realistically contain. Some suggested the ring had simply been sent for cleaning or repair, the kind of explanation that sounds reasonable until you apply it to a piece that had reportedly never been publicly acknowledged to exist. Others suggested something more pointed. The palace, for its part, offered nothing. No clarification, no confirmation, no dignified reframing of the situation through an approved spokesperson. Just silence. And silence, as those who study this institution have noted across decades of observation, creates theories faster than statements ever could. Then came a detail that intensified everything considerably. A reporter, according to sources familiar with the situation, reportedly received an anonymous message from an address that could not be traced. 3 words. Watch the next state event carefully. No name, no context, no explanation. And according to palace insiders who became aware of the message, someone inside the institution had wanted the public to notice the change. Someone had decided that the disappearance should not go unobserved. Here is the truth that royal observers rarely state plainly, but that the history of every long-surviving monarchy eventually reveals. The institution does not protect its people, protects itself. And it does so with a quiet ruthlessness that is all the more effective for never appearing ruthless at all. No visible cruelty. No public humiliation, just the gradual, almost tender withdrawal of the things that once signaled belonging, the invitations, the access, the objects, until the person inside the institution begins to understand, without being told, that the architecture around them has changed. This is not unique to the British monarchy. According to commentators who study generational transitions in long-surviving institutions, political dynasties, corporate families, religious hierarchies, the same pattern emerges with striking consistency. The old structure does not fall. It simply stops reinforcing itself around certain people and begins reinforcing itself around others. Almost everyone, at some point in their professional or personal life, experiences the moment they realize the structure no longer revolves around them. The question, insiders suggest, is not whether that moment arrives. It is what you choose to do when it does. According to sources close to palace operations, a quiet debate was reportedly unfolding among senior figures around this time, one that no official minutes would ever record, and that none of the participants would ever publicly acknowledge. Was Charles protecting Camilla, or was he protecting the monarchy? And were those, in the end, the same decision? The palace stayed silent. The debate continued in the corridors. And then came the moment, according to royal observers who were watching closely, that changed public perception of Queen Camilla completely. She did not retaliate. According to those present at subsequent royal engagements, Camilla appeared publicly in the days following with the particular composure that those who know her well describe as her most authentic register. Not performed, not strained, but genuinely, quietly dignified. No visible bitterness. No pointed absence. No coded gestures for the cameras. Just presence. The kind of steady, unhurried presence that palace staff, according to insiders, reportedly began to observe with a new quality of attention. Because there is a particular kind of respect that institutions extend to people who absorb their hardest moments without requiring the institution to feel guilty about it. It is not the loudest kind of respect. It does not come with acknowledgement or ceremony. But it comes. And according to sources familiar with internal palace dynamics in the weeks that followed, something shifted in the way certain staff members spoke about Camilla, not with pity, as some had quietly offered in the immediate aftermath of the ring situation, but with something considerably more durable. Respect. Real power, insiders who study royal households consistently note, is not always keeping your position when the institution applies pressure. Sometimes real power is choosing dignity when bitterness would be considerably easier and considerably more understandable. A senior palace observer, according to reports, reportedly made a remark in a private context that eventually reached wider circulation among royal commentators. That was the moment she truly looked royal, not when she received the title, not when the crowds gathered, but in the quiet, in the composed, careful, entirely private decision to carry an institutional weight without asking the institution to carry it for her. But the story, the narrator notes, still wasn't really about Camilla, or even Charles. The reason this story moved beyond royal commentary circles and into something considerably wider is not because people are fascinated by jewelry. It is because most people, at some point in their lives, have stood in a room that used to feel like theirs, and felt it quietly become someone else's. The ring, in that sense, was never really the story. The ring was the moment when an abstract institutional shift became something a human being could hold in their hand and feel the weight of. And that weight is recognizable. In workplaces where the meetings you once attended begin completing themselves without you. In families where the conversations about the future stop, including your perspective, as though it is still necessary. In relationships where the subtle language of belonging, the phone calls, the invitations, the small daily gestures of being considered, begins arriving less frequently, and then less frequently still, until one day you realize the pattern has changed and you cannot identify exactly when it happened. The quietest heartbreak, insiders who study human institutional behavior consistently observe, is not rejection. It is the realization that the future is arriving, and it did not stop to ask whether you were ready. That is why the palace's silence on this matter, according to royal commentators, may have been its most revealing response of all. Because institutions that stay silent on the things that matter are not protecting information. They are protecting a transition that is already underway. And the question that this silence still leaves open, the one that no official statement has addressed, and that royal observers suggest no official statement ever will, is this: when loyalty and survival stop meaning the same thing, which one does an institution choose? The palace, to this day, has not answered. If this story stayed with you, please like this video and subscribe. It genuinely helps us keep telling the stories that matter. We'll see you in the next one. There are no villains in this story. That is perhaps the most important thing to carry away from everything that has been described here, because the temptation, when a story involves a ring and a request and a room filled with careful silence, is to cast it as a story about cruelty. About power used carelessly against someone who had already endured more than their share of institutional pressure. But that reading misses something essential. King Charles, according to those who study him with genuine attention, is not a man who makes decisions like this lightly. He is a man who has spent his entire life understanding that the institution he was born to serve is larger than any single person inside it, including himself. Whatever the ring request represents, insiders suggest it was not made without the particular weight that accompanies every decision that knows it will cause pain and chooses necessity anyway. William continues preparing. Quietly, steadily, Camilla continues her duties, with composure that, according to royal observers, has deepened rather than diminished in the aftermath of this period. Charles continues carrying what every sovereign must carry, the responsibility of protecting something that will outlast every individual inside it, including the one wearing the crown. Institutions are not designed for the people within them. They are designed to outlive them. And perhaps the most human truth at the center of this entire story is this: the velvet case is reportedly closed now. Not angrily, not with ceremony, carefully, the way you close something when you understand that love, loyalty, and legacy do not always move forward together, and that maturity means learning to carry all three, even when they are pulling in different directions. Maybe the ring was never the real story. Maybe the real story was what happens when people spend their entire lives serving institutions designed to outlive them. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.